The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room Park Ho had ever seen. Giant pillars made of crystal rose up toward a ceiling so high that clouds actually formed near the top. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat in floating chairs arranged in a wide circle. Some had scales. Some had multiple eyes. Some looked like nothing Ho could even describe. He stood at the back of the hall with the other human diplomats. Earth was still new to all of this. Humans had only been traveling among the stars for about 100 years. Compared to species that had ruled galaxies for thousands of years, humans were like children who had just learned to walk. Today's gathering was supposed to be simple, just another boring political meeting. But the moment Queen of the Empire stepped onto the central platform, Ho knew something was wrong. They were tall and elegant creatures. Their skin was pale blue, almost like ice. Their eyes were large and silver, and they never showed emotion. They believed that feelings were a weakness. They had removed emotions from their species long ago through science. Queen was beautiful in a cold and distant way. She wore armor made of white metal that glowed softly. Her face was completely still, like a statue. But Ho had spent years studying body language. He noticed the small things others missed. The way her fingers pressed too hard against her staff, the tiny movement in her jaw. Queen was afraid. "I come before this council with a request," the Queen said. Her voice echoed through the hall. "My daughter, Princess, has reached the age of bonding. I seek a worthy consort from among the noble species of this council." Whispers spread through the hall like wind through grass. Ho leaned forward slightly. Political marriages between species were common. They created alliances and prevented wars. This should have been good news. But the whispers did not sound happy. The ambassador from the Empire stood first. He was a reptilian creature with green scales and yellow eyes. "With respect, Queen, we must decline. The princess carries impure genetics." Queen's grip on her staff tightened. "Explain." "It is known throughout the galaxy," the ambassador said. "Your daughter was born with a defect. She feels emotions. She is genetically unstable. They cannot bond our bloodline with such weakness." Ho felt his stomach turn. They were talking about the princess like she was broken merchandise. The delegate stood next. He was a massive creature with 4 arms and dark purple skin. "The Dominion agrees. We have no interest in an emotionally contaminated mate. She would produce weak offspring." One by one, every species in the hall rejected the princess. "The cannot accept. House respectfully declines. The syndicate of has no interest." Each rejection hit Queen like a physical blow. Ho watched her composure crack piece by piece. Her silver eyes became wet, though she fought hard to hide it. And then he saw her. Princess stood in the shadows behind a pillar. She was smaller than her mother and younger. Her blue skin was slightly darker like a twilight sky. She wore simple robes instead of armor, and unlike every other Ho had ever seen, her face showed everything she felt. Pain, shame, heartbreak. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she listened to the galaxy call her worthless. Something inside Ho broke. He thought about his younger sister back on Earth. She had been born different too. The other kids had called her names. They had made her feel like she did not belong. Ho had spent his whole childhood protecting her, fighting anyone who dared to make her cry. His sister had died 5 years ago during a border conflict. He could not save her. But maybe he could save someone else. Queen lowered her head. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Then I withdraw my request. It seems my daughter is wanted by no one." The hall began to buzz with conversation. Diplomats started to leave. The matter was closed. "I'll do it." The words left Ho's mouth before he could stop them. His voice rang out clear and strong across the massive hall. Everything stopped. Every alien turned to look at him. The human, the primitive creature from that small blue planet that had barely learned to leave its own solar system. Captain Sora, his commanding officer, grabbed his arm. "Ho, what are you doing?" she whispered harshly. He gently removed her hand, what someone should have done from the start. Ho walked forward. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. He could feel thousands of eyes watching him, judging him. Some looked confused, others looked amused, a few looked disgusted. He did not care. Queen stared at him with wide silver eyes. For the first time, real emotion crossed her face. Confusion, disbelief, and somewhere deep beneath all of that, hope. "You," she said, "a human, you would take my daughter as your mate." Ho stopped at the edge of the platform. He stood tall and met the Queen's gaze without fear. "With respect, Your Majesty," he said, "where I come from, what you call a defect, we call being human." Murmurs exploded through the hall. Several aliens laughed. The ambassador shook his head in disbelief. "Absurd," the delegate growled. "Humans are barely civilized. They have nothing to offer the Empire." "We have heart," Ho replied calmly. "We have loyalty, and we do not abandon people just because they are different." He looked past the Queen toward the pillar where Princess hid. Their eyes met. Her tears had stopped. She was staring at him like he was something impossible, something she had never seen before. Someone who did not look at her with disgust. Queen studied the human for a long moment. He was not tall by galactic standards. He was not physically impressive. He came from a species that most considered primitive and unimportant. But he had done something that no other being in this hall had dared to do. He had stepped forward. "Human," Queen said slowly, "do you understand what you are offering? The bonding ceremony is sacred. It is not a game. If you accept my daughter, you accept her fully, her people, her burdens, her future." Ho nodded. "I understand." "And you still wish to proceed?" He looked at Princess one more time. She had stepped out from behind the pillar. Her hands were pressed against her chest. Her eyes were filled with something he recognized. Hope. The same hope his sister used to have when he promised to protect her. "Yes," Ho said, "I do." The hall erupted into chaos. Aliens shouted. Diplomats argued. Some demanded that the human be removed. Others laughed at the absurdity. But Queen raised her hand, and silence fell. "The human has made his offer," she announced. "According to ancient law, any being may present themselves as a potential consort. His claim is valid." She descended from the platform and approached Ho. Up close, she was even more impressive. Cold and powerful, but in her eyes he saw something fragile, something almost human. "You are either very brave or very foolish, Park Ho of Earth." Ho smiled slightly. "My people have always been both, Your Majesty." For a brief moment the corner of Queen's mouth twitched. It might have been a smile. It was hard to tell. "Then come," she said. "You will travel to you will meet my daughter properly, and you will face the trials of worth." "Trials?" Ho asked. "Did you think winning a princess would be easy, human?" The Queen turned and began walking toward the exit. "You have taken the first step, but the path ahead will test everything you are." Ho took a deep breath. Behind him, Captain Sora was probably having a heart attack. Earth's diplomatic corps was probably already writing angry reports. He had just volunteered for something nobody had asked him to do. But as he followed Queen out of the grand hall, he glanced back one more time. Princess still stood there, watching him leave. And for the first time she was smiling. The ship that carried Park Ho to Prime was cold. Everything about it was cold. The metal walls were smooth and white. The air was thin and clean. There were no decorations, no colors, no warmth. Ho sat alone in a small room during the 3-day journey. He had time to think about what he had done. Back on the council station, his decision had seemed right, noble even. But now, alone in the silence, doubt began to creep in. What did he really know about What did he know about Princess? He had volunteered to bond with a woman he had never spoken to. an alien from a species that did not believe in love. His communicator buzzed. He pressed the button, and Captain Sora's face appeared on the small screen. "You are an idiot," she said immediately. Ho smiled. "Hello to you too, Captain. Earth Command is furious. Half of them want to give you a medal. The other half want to arrest you for starting an incident." Sora's face was tight with worry, but Ho knew her well enough to see the concern beneath her anger. "I did what I thought was right," he said simply. "You did what your heart told you to do. That is not always the same thing," she sighed. "They have not had friendly relations with humans. They see us as primitive, emotional, weak. Maybe that is exactly why they need us." Sora shook her head. "Just be careful, Ho. The Queen may have accepted your offer, but there are others in the court who will not be so welcoming. Watch your back." The communication ended. Ho stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Then he stood and looked out the small window. Prime hung in space like a jewel made of ice. The planet was covered in white and blue. Great frozen mountains stretched across its surface. Rivers of silver cut through valleys of snow. It was beautiful in a way that made Ho shiver. Cold, everything here was cold. When the ship landed, Ho was escorted through the capital city by silent guards. The buildings were tall and sharp, like blades pointing at the sky. The streets were perfectly clean. Citizens walked in straight lines, never stopping to talk, never laughing, never showing any sign that they were alive inside. The royal palace stood at the center of the city. It was the largest structure Ho had ever seen. White walls rose so high they seemed to touch the clouds. Crystal spires glittered in the pale sunlight. Guards stood at every entrance, their faces blank and their eyes watching everything. Ho was taken to a guest chamber and told to wait. Hours passed. No one came to see him. No one explained what would happen next. He was alone in a room that felt more like a prison cell than a guest room. Finally, as the twin suns began to set outside his window, a servant appeared. "The princess will see you now," the servant said in a flat voice. "Follow me." Ho followed the servant through endless hallways. Every wall looked the same. Every door was identical. He realized that if he tried to find his way back alone, he would be completely lost. They stopped before a large door made of crystal. The servant pressed his hand against it, and the door slid open. "The Garden of Silence," the servant announced. "The princess waits inside." Ho stepped through the door and stopped in surprise. After hours of cold white walls and empty hallways, the garden was like stepping into a different world. Plants grew everywhere. Some glowed with soft blue light. Others had flowers that shifted colors as he watched. A small stream ran through the center, its water crystal clear. The air here was warm and sweet with the smell of alien blossoms. And there, sitting beside the stream, was Princess. She looked up as he entered. Her silver eyes went wide with surprise, as if she had not truly believed he would come. She wore a simple dress of pale blue that matched her skin. Her dark hair fell past her shoulders. Without the shadows of the grand hall hiding her, Ho could see her clearly for the first time. She was beautiful, not in the cold, distant way of her mother, but in a soft, gentle way that reminded Ho of morning light. "You came," she said quietly. Ho walked closer, then stopped a few feet away from her. He did not want to frighten her. "Of course I came. I gave my word." Looked down at her hands. "Most beings would have changed their mind by now. My people. They probably told you terrible things about me on the journey here." "They did not tell me anything," Ho admitted. "They barely spoke to me at all." A sad smile crossed his face. "That sounds like my people." Silence hung between them. The garden's soft lights glowed around them. Somewhere in the distance, water dripped into the stream. Ho looked around at the plants. "This place is different from the rest of the palace." "My mother built it for me," said. "When I was young, I could not stop crying. The doctors did not know what to do. Children do not cry. They tried to fix me with medicine, with training, with punishment. Her voice grew heavy. Nothing worked. I was broken. Ho sat down on the ground across from her. You are not broken. Looked at him with confusion. You do not even know me. How can you say that? Because where I come from, crying is not a defect. It means you are alive. It means you can feel things deeply. He picked up a small flower that had fallen near the stream. On Earth, we have people who cannot cry. We worry about them. We think something is wrong. Stared at him like he had just spoken a foreign language. Your people, they value emotions. We live for them, Ho said with a small smile. We write songs about love. We make art about sadness. We fight wars because of anger, and we build families because of joy. Everything we do comes from what we feel. For a long moment said nothing. Then slowly a tear rolled down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away. I am sorry, I should not. Do not apologize. Ho leaned forward slightly. Never apologize for feeling things. Met his eyes. In them Ho saw years of pain, years of being told she was wrong, years of hiding who she really was. But he also saw something else, a tiny spark, hope. Why did you really step forward? She asked. In the grand hall, you did not know me. You had nothing to gain. The other species laughed at you. Why would you do that? Ho thought carefully about his answer. I had a sister once. She was born different too. The other children called her names. They said she was strange, wrong, broken. He paused, feeling the old pain rise in his chest. I spent my whole life protecting her. And when I saw you standing in those shadows, crying while the galaxy rejected you, I saw her. What happened to your sister? She died 5 years ago. I could not save her. Ho's voice was quiet. But when I saw you, I thought, maybe I could save someone else. Was silent. Then she reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool against his. Not cold like ice, but cool like water, soft and gentle. She held his hand carefully as if she was afraid it might break. No one has ever touched me like this, she whispered. Not without fear, not without disgust. Ho squeezed her hand gently. Then no one has ever seen you properly. They sat together in the garden of silence as the sun set outside. For the first time in her life, did not feel alone. And for the first time in years, Ho felt like he had a purpose again. But far away in the dark halls of the palace, someone was watching. High Chancellor stood in the shadows. He was an old with sharp features and cold, calculating eyes. For decades, he had planned to take the throne. Queen had no other heirs. If Princess failed to find a consort, she would be declared unfit to rule, and then the throne would pass to him. The human had ruined everything. Watched the two young people holding hands in the garden. His thin lips curled into a sneer. Enjoy this moment, human, he whispered to himself. It will not last. He turned and disappeared into the darkness. The trials were coming, and would make sure the human did not survive them. The arena of ancestors was older than human civilization. It had stood on Prime for 10,000 years. Great stone walls surrounded a massive circular field. Thousands of sat in seats carved from crystal, their silver eyes watching in silence. Above them, floating cameras broadcast the event to every corner of the galaxy. Today, a human would face the trials of worth. Park Ho stood in the center of the arena. He wore simple clothing, no armor, no weapons. The rules of the trials were clear. He would enter each challenge with nothing but his body and his mind. Queen sat on a high platform overlooking the arena. Princess sat beside her, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She had not been able to sleep the night before. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ho's face. She saw his kind smile. She felt his warm hand holding hers. And she was terrified that today she would watch him die. High Chancellor stood near the Queen. His face showed nothing, but inside he was pleased. He had spent the last 3 days making preparations. The trials had always been difficult, but thanks to his interference, they would now be nearly impossible. The first trial begins, the announcer called out. The hunt. A section of the arena floor opened. Ho watched as a massive gate rose from the ground. Beyond it lay a jungle, not a real jungle but a perfect copy created by technology. Trees with silver leaves reached toward an artificial sky. Mist hung in the air. Strange sounds echoed from the darkness. The challenger must survive in the hunting grounds for 6 hours, the announcer explained. He will be hunted by the... Gasps rose from the crowd. Even the emotionless seemed surprised. Princess grabbed her mother's arm. The mother, that is not fair. They are apex predators. They have killed trained warriors. Queen's face remained still. The trial has been set. We cannot change it now. From her seat looked at. He met her gaze with cold satisfaction. She knew then that he had done something. He had changed the rules somehow, but she had no proof. And even if she did, speaking against a high chancellor without evidence would only make things worse. All she could do was watch. Ho walked into the jungle. The gate closed behind him. The first hour was quiet. Ho moved carefully through the trees, studying his surroundings. The jungle was hot and wet. The air was thick with the smell of rotting plants. Every few minutes he heard something moving in the distance. He found a stream and knelt beside it. His reflection stared back at him. A human, small, weak, slow. By every measure, he should not be able to survive this. But humans had survived worse. Ho thought about Earth's history. For millions of years, humans had been prey. They had no claws, no fangs, no natural weapons, but they had survived. They had not just survived. They had become the dominant species on their planet. Hell, persistence, intelligence, adaptability. Ho began to prepare. He found plants with strong-smelling sap and rubbed them on his skin. The smell would hide his scent. He gathered vines and sharp stones. He found a high tree with thick branches and climbed up, studying the jungle from above. In the second hour, he saw for the first time. It was massive, at least 3 meters long. Its body was covered in black scales. 6 legs moved silently across the ground. Its head was flat and wide, with rows of teeth that could bite through metal. 2 red eyes scanned the jungle, searching for prey. Searching for him. Ho held his breath. He pressed himself against the tree branch, the pass below him sniffing the air. It could not find his scent. The plant's sap was working. But it was only a matter of time. The creature began circling the area. It knew something was wrong. It could sense that prey was near, even if it could not smell it. Ho knew he could not hide forever. He had to think. It was faster than him, stronger than him. It had better senses. In a direct fight, he would die in seconds. But he had something the creature did not have. A plan. Over the next 2 hours, Ho set traps. He dug pits covered with leaves. He tied vines between trees that would tangle the creature's legs. He found fruit that released a sticky liquid and placed them along paths the might take. In the 5th hour, they found him. Ho was running through the trees when he heard it coming. The ground shook with each step. The creature roared, and the sound made his bones tremble. He ran toward his traps. The first trap worked. They fell into a pit, but it climbed out in seconds, angrier than before. The second trap slowed it down. Vines tangled around its legs. It ripped through them, but it gave Ho precious seconds. The third trap was the sticky fruit. They stepped into it and stumbled. Its legs were stuck. It thrashed and screamed, trying to break free. Ho did not stop to watch. He kept running. He found a cave near the edge of the jungle and squeezed inside. The entrance was too small for the... He pressed himself against the cold stone and waited. Outside, he heard the creature searching. It circled the cave, it clawed at the entrance. Rocks fell around Ho, but the cave held. When the 6 hours ended, a horn sounded. The jungle disappeared. Ho found himself standing in the arena again, covered in mud and scratches but alive. The crowd was silent. They had expected the human to die. They had never seen anyone survive by outsmarting it. Princess felt tears of relief roll down her cheeks. "The first trial is complete," the announcer said, his voice betraying surprise. "The challenger has survived." There was no time to rest. The second trial began immediately. The mind maze. The arena floor opened again. This time, a strange machine rose from below. It looked like a chair surrounded by metal arms and glowing crystals. "The mind maze is a psychic challenge," the announcer explained. "The machine will enter the challenger's mind. It will find his deepest fears and use them against him. He must navigate through his own memories without losing himself." Ho sat in the chair. Metal arms strapped him in place, a helmet lowered onto his head. And then he was somewhere else. He stood in darkness. At first he saw nothing, then slowly light appeared. He was back on Earth, but not the Earth he knew. This was the Earth from his nightmares. Fire burned across the sky, cities crumbled, people screamed, and in the center of it all he saw his sister. She was lying on the ground, blood pooling around her. She looked up at him with dying eyes. "You did not save me," she whispered. "Why did you not save me?" Ho felt his heart shatter. I tried so hard." "You failed." His sister's voice became cold. "And now you will fail again. The princess will die because of you. Everyone you love will die because you are weak." The vision changed. He saw Princess surrounded by flames. She reached out to him, crying for help, but no matter how fast he ran, he could not reach her. "You are nothing," a voice whispered in his mind. "Give up, let go, stop fighting." The pain was overwhelming. Every failure, every regret, every moment of weakness played before his eyes. The machine was trying to break him. It wanted him to surrender. But Ho did not run from his pain. He walked toward his sister's memory. He knelt beside her and took her hand. "I am sorry I could not save you," he said quietly. "I carry that pain every day, but you taught me something important. You taught me that loving someone is never a weakness, even when you lose them." The vision flickered. "I am not nothing," Ho continued. "I am human. We break, we fall, we fail, but we also get back up. We keep fighting, not because we always win, but because some things are worth fighting for." The darkness shattered. Ho opened his eyes. He was back in the arena. The machine powered down. He had passed the second trial. This time whispers spread through the crowd. Even some looked impressed. The third trial was announced. The Duel of Champions. A massive warrior stepped into the arena. He stood almost 2.5 meters tall. His body was covered in muscle and scars. In his hands, he carried a staff that crackled with energy. Ho looked at this giant and knew he could not win through strength. But strength was not the only way to win. The duel began. The warrior charged, swinging his staff in deadly arcs. Ho dodged. He rolled. He moved in ways they had never seen. Human bodies were built for endurance and flexibility. What Ho lacked in power, he made up for in speed and creativity. The warrior grew frustrated. His attacks became wild. Ho stayed calm. He studied his opponent. He waited for the perfect moment. It came when the warrior overreached. His staff swung wide, leaving him off balance. Ho moved. He swept the warrior's legs out from under him. The giant fell. Before he could rise, Ho had him pinned, using leverage and technique instead of brute force. The arena fell completely silent. Then slowly, Queen rose from her seat. "The trials are complete," she announced. "Park Ho of Earth has proven his worth." Princess stood beside her mother, tears streaming freely down her face. But this time, she was not crying from sadness. She was crying from joy. The weeks following the trials were unlike anything Princess had ever experienced. For the first time in her life, someone wanted to spend time with her. Not because of duty, not because of politics, but because they genuinely enjoyed her company. Park Ho visited her garden every day. Sometimes they talked for hours. Sometimes they sat in comfortable silence, listening to the water flow through the stream. Found herself looking forward to these moments more than anything else. Today, Ho had brought something special. "What is that?" asked, watching him set up a small device on the ground. "A music player," Ho explained. "I asked Captain to send it from the human station. I thought you might like to hear what music sounds like on Earth." Music had heard the word before, but she had never truly understood it. They did not make music. They found it unnecessary, a waste of time and energy. Ho pressed a button. Sound filled the garden. It was soft at first, a gentle pattern of notes rising and falling like waves. Then a voice joined in, singing words in a language did not understand. But she did not need to understand the words. She could feel them. Sadness, hope, love, loss, joy. All of it flowed through the music like colors through light. Felt tears forming in her eyes. This is beautiful. Ho watched her face with a warm smile. On Earth, we believe that music is the language of the soul. It says things that words cannot express. "My people removed this," said quietly. "Centuries ago, they decided that emotions were dangerous, so they changed themselves. They took away the ability to feel." She touched her chest. "But something went wrong with me. I was born with the old genes, the genes they tried to destroy." "Maybe nothing went wrong," Ho suggested. "Maybe something went right." Looked at him with confusion. "How can you say that? I am an accident, a mistake." "Or maybe you are the cure." Ho moved closer to her. "What if your people were wrong? What if removing emotions did not make them stronger? What if it made them weaker?" Had never considered this possibility. All her life, she had been told that her feelings were a disease. But when she looked at the humans, she saw something different. They were messy. They made mistakes. They fought and cried and laughed. But they were also alive in a way that they were not. "Tell me about your world," she said. "Tell me about Earth." Ho leaned back against a tree. "Earth is chaotic, beautiful and terrible at the same time. We have wars, but we also have families. We have hatred, but we also have love. Every human carries both darkness and light inside them." "That sounds difficult." "It is," Ho smiled. "But it is also wonderful, because when someone chooses to love you despite all the darkness, it means something. It is not programmed into them. It is not logical. They choose it freely." Thought about this for a long time. The do not choose, we follow logic, we do what makes sense. There is no chaos. And no joy. She was silent. That night could not sleep. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything Ho had said. She thought about music, about choice, about love. She thought about what it might feel like to be free. The next day, Queen summoned Ho to her private chambers. The Queen's room was large but simple. White walls. A single window overlooking the frozen mountains. Stood with her back to him, her hands clasped behind her. "You passed the trials," she said without turning around. "You have earned the right to court my daughter, but I must ask you something human, and I want the truth." "Of course, Your Majesty." Finally turned to face him. Her silver eyes studied him carefully. Why did you really step forward? Do not tell me it was because you saw her crying. That is too simple, too human." Ho considered his answer. The Queen deserved honesty. "I saw someone being rejected for who she was," he said. "I saw an entire galaxy call her worthless because she feels things deeply, and I thought about how wrong that is. On Earth, the people who feel the most are often the ones who change the world. Artists, leaders, healers. They feel pain more deeply than others, but they also feel love more deeply." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Your daughter is not defective, Your Majesty. She is extraordinary. The fact that she can feel emotions in a society that has banned them makes her one of the bravest people I have ever met. She has spent her whole life hiding who she really is, and yet she has not broken. She has not become cold like the others. That takes incredible strength." Queen was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, softer, almost vulnerable. "I remember emotions," she admitted. "When I was very young, before the treatments fully took hold, I felt things. I remember joy, I remember fear, I remember love." She looked out the window at the frozen landscape. "Then they took it away. They told me it was for my own good, and I believed them." "Do you still believe them?" The Queen did not answer immediately. "When was born and the doctors told me she was defective, I was supposed to feel nothing. But I did feel something. I felt protective. I felt scared for her. I did not understand these feelings, but they were there." She turned back to Ho. "Perhaps that is why I built her the garden. Perhaps that is why I never gave up on finding her a match, even when everyone told me to let her go." "You love her," Ho said simply. Flinched at the word, as if it was painful to hear. "Love is not something to speak of." "Maybe it should be." The Queen studied him for another long moment. Then slowly, something changed in her face. The cold mask cracked just a little. "Take care of my daughter, Park Ho. She is the most precious thing in my empire, more valuable than any planet or treasure." Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. "She is my heart, even if I cannot always show it." Ho bowed. "I will protect her with my life, Your Majesty." 1 week later, the Festival of Stars arrived. It was the oldest celebration on Prime. Once every decade, the planet passed through a field of cosmic dust, and the night sky exploded with color. Millions of lights streaked across the darkness like glowing rivers. For one night, even the emotionless paused to look up at the beauty. Ho found on a balcony overlooking the capital city. She wore a dress of deep blue that sparkled like the stars above. Her dark hair was decorated with small gems that caught the light. She looked like something from a dream. "You are beautiful," he said softly. Turned, and her cheeks flushed darker. "Humans say such things so easily." "Only when we mean them." They stood together, watching the stars fall. The city below was quiet. For this one night, they set aside their cold logic and simply existed. "I never thought I would feel this way," admitted. "I spent my whole life believing something was wrong with me, that I was broken. But when I am with you, I do not feel broken. I feel whole." Ho took her hand. "You were never broken, you were just waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For someone who could see you, really see you." He gently turned her to face him. "I see you, all of you, and I think you are the most amazing person I have ever met." Felt tears building in her eyes, but for the first time she did not try to hide them. "On Prime, we do not have a word for love," she said. "It was removed from our language centuries ago, but I think I understand now what it means." She reached up and touched his face. Her cool fingers traced his cheek. "It means choosing someone," she whispered. "Not because it makes sense, not because it is logical, but because your heart will not let you choose anyone else." Above them, the stars continued to fall. Below them, the frozen city glowed with borrowed light. And on that balcony, two people from different worlds found something that the galaxy had told them was impossible. They found each other. But in the shadows of the palace, High Chancellor watched them with burning hatred. The human had survived the trials. The princess was falling in love. His plans were crumbling. He pulled out a communicator and activated a secure channel. "Chancellor to command," he said quietly. "I am ready to discuss your offer. Meet me at the coordinates." It was time for more direct action. The night before the bonding ceremony, Prime was supposed to be at peace. The palace was decorated with silver flowers. Servants prepared the great hall for the celebration. For the first time in centuries, there was almost joy in the air. But in the darkness of space, something terrible was approaching. High Chancellor stood in his private chamber, speaking into a secure communicator. On the screen before him, The face of a warlord glowed red. "The fleet is in position," the warlord said, his voice like grinding stones. 200 warships. We can strike at midnight." Nodded slowly. "Good. The palace guards will be distracted by ceremony preparations. By the time they realize what is happening, it will be too late." "And our agreement still stands." "Yes, the outer territories of the Empire will belong to the Dominion. In return, you help me claim the throne." Eyes gleamed with ambition. "The queen will be removed. The defective princess will be bonded to your warlord, and I will rule what remains." The warlord smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "The Dominion looks forward to our partnership." The screen went dark. Turned to look out his window at the peaceful city below. Soon, that peace would be shattered. Soon, everything he had worked for would finally be his. In her garden, Princess sat with Ho, unaware of the danger coming their way. "Are you nervous about tomorrow?" she asked. Ho smiled. "A little. Bonding ceremonies are not common on Earth. We usually just sign some papers and have a party." Laughed. It was a sound she had rarely made in her life, and it still surprised her how natural it felt. "Our ceremony is more complicated. There are rituals, vows, an exchange of life energy." Life energy. When two bond, they share a piece of themselves with each other. It creates a connection that lasts forever. She looked at him with sudden worry. "But you are human. We do not know if the ritual will work. It might be dangerous for you." Ho took her hands. "I survived your trials. I think I can handle a ceremony." "This is different. The energy exchange goes both ways. I will give you part of myself, but you will also give me part of yourself. Our minds will touch. Our emotions will connect. Are you prepared for that?" Ho looked into her silver eyes. He saw fear there, but also hope. "I am not afraid of you knowing who I really am. I want you to know all of it, the good and the bad." Felt warmth spread through her chest. This strange, brave human had turned her entire world upside down. In just a few weeks, he had given her more happiness than she had experienced in her entire life. "I think I love you," she whispered. The words hung in the air like starlight. Ho's expression softened. "I know I love you," he replied. He leaned forward and gently pressed his forehead against hers. It was a human gesture of closeness that felt somehow right. They stayed like that for a long moment, breathing the same air, sharing the same space. Neither of them heard the alarms until it was too late. Sirens screamed across the capital city. Red lights flashed. The ground shook as something massive struck the orbital defense shields. Ho jumped to his feet. "What is happening?" Before could answer, explosions rocked the palace. The garden walls cracked. Chunks of crystal fell from above. Through the broken ceiling, they could see the sky filled with warships. "Warships! The palace is under attack," a guard shouted, running past the garden. "Everyone to the safe rooms." Ho grabbed hand. "Come on, we need to find your mother." They ran through the crumbling hallways. All around them, chaos unfolded. Guards fought against soldiers. Energy blasts scorched the white walls. People screamed and fell. When they reached the throne room, they found Queen surrounded by guards, fighting desperately against waves of attackers. But for every enemy they struck down, two more appeared. Mother cried out. Looked up, her face filled with rare emotion. "You must escape. Take the human and go." "I will not leave you." Before anyone could move, the doors behind the throne burst open. High Chancellor walked through, flanked by elite warriors. In his hand, he held a weapon pointed directly at the Queen. "Enough," commanded. "Lower your weapons or the Queen dies." The guards hesitated, raised her hand, ordering them to stand down. She said coldly, "I should have known. You have wanted my throne for decades. And now I will have it." Moved closer, his weapon never wavering. "You were always too soft. You should have disposed of your defective daughter years ago. Instead, you tried to find her a match. You brought a human into our empire." He spat the word with disgust. "Your weakness has doomed us all." "No," stepped forward, her hands shaking but her voice steady. "Your hatred has doomed us." Laughed, "The defect speaks, how amusing." He gestured to the warriors. "Seize her. She will be bonded to Warlord, the Alliance demands it." Two massive soldiers grabbed arms. She struggled, but their grip was like iron. "No," Ho shouted. He rushed forward, but more soldiers blocked his path. One of them struck him across the face, sending him crashing to the ground. "Kill the human," ordered casually. "He has no value." A soldier raised his weapon, pointing it at Ho's head. Time seemed to slow down. Ho looked at. She was crying, struggling against her captors, screaming his name. He looked at Queen, helpless and defeated. He looked at, smiling with cruel satisfaction. And then he remembered something had told him days ago. Something about her special ability. Something she had always been afraid of. He shouted, "Use your gift." "Froze what?" "Your emotional resonance. You can make others feel what you feel. You have always been afraid of it, but now is the time. Show them what you have inside you." His eyes went wide. She had never used her ability on purpose. She had spent her whole life suppressing it, terrified of what might happen. But as she looked at Ho, about to die for her, something inside her broke free. She stopped fighting. She stopped hiding. She let herself feel everything. The love she had for Ho, the pain of a lifetime of rejection, the hope he had given her, the fear of losing him, the anger at being treated like garbage, the joy of finally being accepted. Everything. And then she pushed it outward. The wave of emotion exploded from her like a silent bomb. It swept through the throne room, touching every mind it reached. The soldiers stumbled. They had never felt anything like this. Their species valued brutality, but they had never experienced true emotion. Suddenly, they were overwhelmed by guilt, by shame, by the weight of every cruel thing they had ever done. They fell to their knees, dropping their weapons, clutching their heads. Even was affected. He staggered back, his weapon falling from his grip. Tears streamed down his face, tears he had not shed in centuries. What is this?" he gasped. "This is what you tried to destroy," said, her voice ringing through the hall. "This is what you call a defect. This is the heart of and it is stronger than you will ever be." Ho rose to his feet. He picked up a fallen weapon and aimed it at. "It is over, Chancellor." Looked around at his fallen allies, at the soldiers writhing on the ground, at the Queen slowly standing tall again. His plan had crumbled in seconds. Because he had underestimated the most powerful force in the universe. Love. Outside the palace, the battle turned. Captain Sora had arrived with Earth's emergency response fleet. They were a small force, but they struck at the command ship with precision and fury. "This is Captain of the Earth Alliance," she broadcast across all channels. "Any hostile ships that do not withdraw immediately will be destroyed. This planet is under human protection." The fleet hesitated. They had expected an easy conquest. They had not expected humans to fight for a species that was not even their own. One by one, the warships began to retreat. In the throne room, Queen approached her daughter. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Then did something she had not done since was a child. She embraced her. "I am sorry," the Queen whispered. "I am so sorry for everything." Held her mother tightly, tears flowing freely. "It is not too late, it is never too late." Nearby, Ho watched with a tired but happy smile. High Chancellor was dragged away by guards, his power broken forever. The battle was won. But as the smoke cleared and the fires were put out, everyone knew that something had changed, not just on Prime, but across the entire galaxy. A human had stood with an alien princess, a defect had become a hero, and love had proven stronger than hatred. Tomorrow, the bonding ceremony would continue. and nothing would ever be the same.